So watch me transform my beautiful client for her birthday shoot. If this is what you'd like to see, keep on watching. Hi guys, if you're new here, this is Cynthia Makeover. So I'm going to be starting off with the foundation. I already did the skin prep off camera. So the skin prep I did was just moisturizer and primer. So I used a flat brush to apply the foundation first on her face, one side of her face, before using my damp beauty sponge to blend. So this is V Beauty foundation. I'm going to be leaving the shade in my description box, and this is a mattifying foundation. My client's skin is quite oily. That is why I'm using a mattifying foundation. So after blending in the foundation into the skin, next I'm going to be contouring the face. I'm going to be using this Liban Beauty concealer in the shade 049. This shade is like two shades darker than her skin color. So after contouring the face, next is to apply my cream blush. I'm going to be using this orange shade for my Blossom lip palette and apply it above her cheekbone and a little bit on the tip of her nose. Then I went ahead to blend using my beauty sponge. So next I'm going to be highlighting her face with my Milani concealer in the shade 160. So it's always best to use a concealer shade that is 2 to 3 shades lighter than the skin to highlight your face. So after applying it on the places I want to highlight, then I used my beauty sponge to blend the concealer on the highlighted area. So after blending in the concealer, I'm going to be contouring the nose with the same shade I used to contour the face. So I used a flat brush to apply it first before using my beauty sponge to blend to avoid any harsh lines. So next is to set the concealer on the highlighted area. I'm going to be using this Miracle setting powder in the shade Cinnamon. Before setting, I went back with my beauty sponge to blend the areas underneath the eyes to avoid creasing. After that, I'm going to be setting using my beauty sponge. So while I set, I do not like to pack too much setting powder. A little goes a long way. Trust me, if your setting powder is too much, you end up having a cakey result. So take it one step at a time and make sure you set in properly. So after setting the concealer on the highlighted area, I'm going to be setting the rest of her face using this shade from my Beacham powder palette to set the rest of the face. So it's important to use the exact shade of your skin tone to set the rest of your face. Do not use a shade lighter or darker. Make sure the shade you're using matches with your skin tone. After that, next I'm going to be doing my dry contouring, which is low light contouring. I'm going to be using this darker shade of powder from the same powder palette to set the cream contour that I applied earlier. So if you don't have any concealer or foundation that is a bit darker than your skin for your cream contouring, you can skip applying your cream contouring and go ahead using your powder contouring. So after contouring the face with the powder, I'm going to be doing the same thing on the nose. So I'm going to be applying a lighter shade of powder from the same powder palette on the highlighted areas, the places I applied the concealer, just to give it a little bit of coverage, and use the fluffy brush to dust off the excess powder on the highlighted area. So next I'm going to be applying my powder blush. I'm going to be mixing these two shades here from my Chisky blush palette and apply it above her cheekbone and a little bit on the tip of her nose. So after applying your cream blush, you also need a powder blush to set it. If you don't have a cream blush, you can use your powder blush. After that, I'm going to be using my powder brush to blend everything together. Then I went ahead to set with my setting spray. This is going to help reduce the powder effect and also help the product to sit properly into the skin. Then I allowed it to dry before moving on to baking. For baking, I'm going to be using the same setting powder I used to set the face to bake the face. So after that, moving on to the brows, I'm going to be using my spoolie brush to brush her brows first. Then I went ahead using my brow tamer to lay the brows nicely before I went ahead to do the eyeshadow. So these days I don't like doing the brows first. I like to do my eyeshadow. So moving on to the eyeshadow, I'm going to be using my Vianch eyeshadow base. I'm going to be using it to prime her lid. This is going to help the eyeshadow to pop and also stay. If you don't prime your lid, eyeshadow is not going to stay or pop. So it's important you have an eyeshadow base before you start applying any eyeshadow. So after that, I'm going to be using the same brush to blend. After blending it, I'm going to be applying some setting powder on the areas underneath the eyes to avoid fallout from the eyes. Then I went ahead to you mix these two shades from my Annie's Beauty eyeshadow palette. So I started applying this shade from the outer corner of her lid, then blended it towards the inner corner of her lid. And I'm using an eyeshadow blending brush. This is going to help apply it and make it pop. After that, I'm going to be doing the other eyes following the same method. So next, I'm going to be using this shade here from the same eyeshadow palette. I'm going to be applying it only on the outer corner of her lid. So I used the same brush to drag it out on the outer corner so that I will have that sharp line on the outer corner. After that, I went back with my eyeshadow blending brush to blend. Then next, I'm going to be doing the other eyes following the same method. So moving on to the next process, I'm going to be using this shade here to blend out the eyeshadow so there won't be any form of demarcation. So I went back applying this shade here from the same eyeshadow palette. I went back applying it on the outer corner because I want it to pop very well. So can you see what it's looking like? After that, I'm going to be using that eyeshadow brush I used to apply the eyeshadow base. I went back using it to blend the inner corner of her lid. After blending the inner corner of her lid, I'm going to be using this eyeshadow palette. I'm going to be using this blue shade here and apply it on the inner corner. I thought this blue shade is going to pop, but using this brush, it wasn't popping for me. So next I'm going to be applying this silver color here and just to brighten up the eyes. At this point I wasn't satisfied with the blue because it wasn't popping. Then I introduced this Blossom makeup eyeshadow palette. So I had to add this blue because I want this blue color to pop. So I used this Blossom eyeshadow palette because I want the blue to pop. So can you see that it's popping more than the first one that I used? So after applying it, I'm going to be using my dark brown, this shade here from Annie's Beauty eyeshadow palette. I went back using it to blend, so there won't be any demarcation between the blue and the dark eyeshadow. So after that, I'm going to be lining her upper and lower lash line with my Carrot gel liner, the black shade, using my eyeliner brush. So this process was one of the hardest for me. My client was really disturbing. She couldn't even open her eyes when I wanted to line her lower lash line. It was a very difficult thing for me to do. After that, I'm going to be using a small blending brush to blend out the eyeliner, like the gel liner, to gently blend it. After blending it, like I want to blend it so that you won't be able to see where the line stopped. Then after that, I'm going to be applying some setting powder on the outer corner of her lid to define the lid. So if you don't use a setting powder, you can use a lighter shade of powder to achieve this. Then next, I'm going to be prepping her natural lashes with my Zaro mascara in order to give it volume. So after that, moving on to the brows, I'm going to be using my Carrot gel liner, the brown shade. So I'm going to be using it to draw her brows, following the shape of her brows. So after drawing the brows, I'm going to be highlighting the brows with the same concealer I used to highlight the face, to highlight the brows. So after highlighting these brows, I'm going to be blending the concealer immediately so that it doesn't get dry and look tacky. So if you do your eyeshadow first, there's no need packing too much concealer when you're highlighting the brows. So after blending it, I'm going to be setting the concealer with a lighter shade of powder from the same powder palette to set the concealer. After setting the concealer, I went back with the eyeshadow blending brush I used to apply the eyeshadow. I went back using it to blend so there won't be any demarcation. After that, I'm going to be doing the other brows following the same method. So next is to highlight the top of the brows. I used the foundation shade I used on her face to highlight the top of the brows. So I do not like to use the same concealer I use underneath the eyes to highlight the top. If not, the top will be looking too bright. That is why I always like to use the foundation shade I used on the face to highlight the top of the brows. After that, I used my blending brush to set. After setting, I went ahead to wear her these lashes from AG Lashes. So after wearing her the lashes, I allowed it to dry before pressing her natural and false lashes together. So moving on to the lip, I'm going to be using this lip pencil to outline her lip. After outlining the lip, I'm going to be blending it. After that, I'm going to be applying this Newborn Beauty lip stain in the middle just to brighten up the lip. After applying it, I blended it. So I decided to add a little bit of color. So I went back using the lip liner to outline again because it wasn't popping anymore. After that, I added this gloss on her lip because she wanted something glossy. So next I'm going to be prepping her lower lashes with the same zero mascara. Look at, she was not opening her eyes, it was so difficult. The next I went ahead applying more blush on her cheek. So next I'm going to be using this light shade of powder to dust off the excess powder on her face. So I use the same brush on the outer corner of her lid. This is going to help me get a sharp end, like after that, I went back with the contour brush that I used to contour the face. I went back using it to blend everything together. After blending everything together, I'm going to be setting the face with my Keys Beauty spray. After setting the face, I'm going to let the face dry very well before applying highlighter. I'm going to be using my Tehila highlighter and blush palette. I'm going to be mixing these two shades here and apply it on the places I want the highlights to pop. After that, I'm going to be applying my Mismetic cheek glaze on her face. I'm going to be applying it on the places I want the face to glow. So next I'm going to be applying some pigment on her tear duct. This is a silver pigment. This is going to help the eyes to pop. So after that, I'm going to be using my Philly spray, stay on spray, to seal up the makeup. This is going to help the makeup to stay intact and also last. And guys, this is the finished look. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.